Good evening, everyone. It is now 5:02. I'm now calling the meeting of the Business Operation and Finance Committee. I need a roll call vote. Mrs. Schultz, please.
Bill Johnson,
Here.
Dan Schoof,
Here.
and Tom Hankins.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. I need approval of the agenda. Move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Approval of the minutes, please.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any else? No. Public comment. Anybody, Mrs. Schultz?
No, I have no public comment.
Thank you. Monthly financials. Mrs. Elwood, you are on.
Thank you, Mr. Hankins. Just one second while I'm bringing up the. Yep. So the monthly reports were attached in with board docs, and let me see here. The biggest highlights are our interest revenue for the month of May, and personal property tax or personal property aid payments that were received from the state. Are the two biggest, and then, or I'm sorry, not the two biggest, two revenues of note, and then also there were some Title I claims and Medicaid cost settlements that happened in May. Expenses for the month of May are pretty consistent with expenses from previous year. The only significant difference, I think, is that ESSER dollars or ESSER expenditures last year versus no ESSER expenditures for this fiscal year. And then there are more purchase services this year than there were last year because we have contracted staffing has increased for 25-26.
Is that like from the year before?
Yes, so
Contracted services?
yeah, so there was a lot more usage of contracted services for 25-26 than there was for 24-25. I think the only other, go back up to the bank statements here. So the only other thing of note is that May is a very small month, and June, a lot of activity happens in June. So if you look at where we're at percentage-wise for revenues and expenditures, it doesn't seem like we're 11 months through the year, because in June, there is a lot of activity that happens in June that gets recorded back. So we receive revenues from property taxes in August. Those get coded back to the fiscal year and end up in June. There's a lot of expenditures closing out the year that happen in July that get coded back to June, such as the open enrollment payments and the charter school payments. Those all get coded to June. So May seems like it's very small and that a lot of activity hasn't happened yet this year because a lot of our big expenditures all happen in June. Did anybody have any questions about the state? Yes.
Just open enrollment.
Yes.
Those payments are due when?
They are, we don't actually make a physical payment. So what happens is that the state takes part of our equalization aid out to pay those open enrollment schools. So it's more like an equalization aid payment adjustment.
I've heard both sides of that they gave us the money, we had to pay it back out. Then I've heard what you just told me.
Yeah, it's done like a journal entry on the system. Yeah.
I just have a question. It's kind of off topic a little bit. Let's go to OPEB funds.
Yep.
And we have a high yielding. We have two accounts for OPEB.
Correct.
My question is, why don't we have all of it in the high yielding account?
So the accounts were set up long before I started in the district. So I inherited these accounts, and this is the way the funds were set up. So we could move those funds from First Mid into Associated Bank. However, without knowing our financial situation as we get close to year end, I don't want to put the funds in Associated Bank and then pull them back out if that is going to cause some issues with those investments there. So I haven't done that. The interest rate that we are getting at First Mid is not terrible. It's at 3.18 right now, but it was closer to 4.
So associated in the presentation. So I was just asking, I'm not condemning or whatever.
Yep.
But I understand. Okay, so another recording question then, how liquid is the funds in Associated?
I think I have to give them at least 30 days notice.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
You need to tap into it.
Yeah.
So,
Probably. The other thing that I have been doing is moving some funds into investments with PMA, because PMA tends to have a little bit higher interest rate. Right now, they're at 3.6, but our investments there are probably closer to 3.8, 3.9. So we've been doing some back and forth, but you are correct. The investment at Associated Bank is a lot more aggressive, because if you look at last year where we were at this time compared to this year at this time, there's almost a $400,000 increase in, I'm sorry, $300,000 increase in interest.
so what
Which
would
is a
it
lot.
take to move that money into Associated from the first?
I will need to look into it and I'll get back to you. I'm not sure if I have to, I probably need to talk to my team and see what we need to
Okay.
do. And
Could that be possible for the next board meeting, or do you want to make
Yes.
it next month?
nope, I can wait till the next board meeting.
The next board
I don't
meeting?
think I have to get board approval to move the funds around. I
Well,
just-
I'd like
I wanna
everybody
talk to-
know.
I need to talk to Associated Bank to see what
Correct.
their thoughts are on it, because that account was opened and nothing has been put into that account or added to that account since I've been here for 3 years. And I'm not sure what the activity was like before that,
Okay. Thank you.
but I will find out and get back to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Tom,
Yes,
question?
yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Dave, I was over.
Yeah, no. Stephanie, just first time around for me, and that's so, in the year end stuff that has to happen, would you like to have it all closed and, you know, the end of the fiscal year stuff?
Yep. So our auditors have already started working on closing out year end. So ideally, I would like to have everything done by the end of July. However, I have to be honest with you, I haven't hired my other person in the accounting office, so a lot of the accounting work. And we had our payroll person recently retired, and we had some movements around. We have a new person by the end of August.
And then as long as you're, just maybe for our new people, sort of
Mhm.
tell us like the audit process for in a nutshell, how that works.
Yep, so preliminary audit started mid-June, and it'll run through the end of August until they finish up at getting all their items gone through. And then they will produce an audit report, and that is due by, I believe, the beginning of December. And then we typically have an audit report to the board after that is completed. I think we did ours in I want to say it was in February this year,
The presentation.
the presentation, yes.
Good.
Tom, one more question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So Stephanie, the DPI estimates have come out for the school aids. Have you had a chance to look at those yet?
Yep, I did look at that. The estimate that the state released was very, very close to what we have estimated for our preliminary budget for 26, 27. I think it was within $500,000. So when you're talking 60-some $million, 500,000 is pretty close for an estimate.
Yeah.
Remembering that the estimate of the state aid is just that, an estimate, because all of the other districts in the whole entire state have to finish their audits before we can get final numbers for equalization aid for 26, 27.
Mhm. So the budget work so, you know, we all enjoyed working on last few meetings. When they estimate 60.5 million in general aids, you know, and they say it'll be 2 million more than last year, you would already have that number in your budget around that number.
Correct.
Thank you.
And that number is not, it's balanced by property tax payments. So if the equalization aid goes up, property taxes go down. If equalization aid goes down,
Sure.
property taxes go up, because we can't raise more dollars than the revenue limit.
And on that note,
Mhm.
what we hear with the mill rate and what's gonna happen next year, we're guessing ahead.
We're projecting to be a little bit less than what we were for
Correct.
25, 26. Mhm.
That statement still holds true from what you know right now.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Anybody else?
So if,
Carol? Joanne? Okay, I'm sorry. Stephanie?
that's okay. If you would move to the full board. The,
Oh, okay, I'm looking for a motion to move this, the financials to the full board on our next week. I need a motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next is discussion action items. The property liability, workers' comp and other business insurance renewals, excuse me.
Yep.
Back to you.
thank you. So our renewals were very good this year, mostly in part to our workers' comp renewal. So if you'll notice on here, our workers' comp renewal is a little over $60,000 less than it was the previous year. And the reason for that being is that the workers' comp claimants that had been holding on there, that had been causing the rates to be so high, have fallen off. So our rate has gone down significantly. So overall, our renewal is pretty good for our insurances. We are actually down quite a bit from the previous year for our insurance renewal.
Thank you. What, Billy, you have questions?
No, that's.
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's great.
My question is, as our employees go down, shouldn't this come down also?
The workers' comp,
Yes.
yes.
Is that
Yeah, that's
just a
part of it
natural-
as well, yes.
Um,
But the other pieces, the property piece is up only slightly because we did reduce a property because we sold McNeil. And then the rest of the insurances are based on either counts of employees or counts of students, so. And yeah, a lot of the numbers they came in very, very favorable considering.
Could you explain to me why did that drop it? I don't understand that.
Because we are no longer insuring the property.
Okay.
Yep. So even though our property insurance is up slightly, because rates have gone up,
Okay.
overall, the rates are
Okay.
pretty favorable.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Can I ask,
Carol?
option change cyber with EMC insurance company to cowbell insurance, what's that?
Yes. So after he had preliminarily given me the numbers, they had an option from Cowbell to do the cyber insurance, which was actually better insurance, and it's a lower price. So we're actually going with the Cowbell. Sorry, and I should have mentioned that, the Cowbell insurance instead
And
of,
it's actually a little bit lower.
it is lower and it's better coverage.
And a catchy name.
All right.
Real quick,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, Stephanie, in our discussions, about buildings that we've had over the last few weeks and meetings, I totally understood why we had put the, folks in right to keep it occupied. We used to do that at college, we kept people in buildings to keep them occupied. But it looks like we're gonna have at least one building that will not have permanently staffed people. So are you gonna be able to work with our insurance to make sure we can keep Cunningham covered next year?
Yeah, so we might be able to do some adjustments with some staff that don't necessarily need to have a permanent place to live, so, or to work. Like, for example, we could have one of our tech people be there temporarily
With the home base?
as a home base, yes. But we can talk about that internally and make sure that we're not leaving the building completely unoccupied. We do also still have security in that building. So yes, there's still security in that building, and we still have facilities checking the buildings every day to make sure that there's not, break-ins or floods or damage, yes.
And that's usually typically what your insurance wants, is just make sure it's not
Completely
there's no
left,
water that
yes.
gets left on, that kind of stuff. Okay.
At some point, we need to think about that roof line too.
Yes.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Carol? Billy?
Keep it locked, not like McNeil was, it was left open.
McNeil was not left
Yes, it
open.
was. It was never locked. You could open the back door.
No. Were you in McNeil when you saw it unlocked?
Oh, it had a chain on it, but if you moved the chain, you could reach in and, I don't know, way in the back.
Were you exploring or?
I was delivering food and we were taking stuff over there.
Recently?
No,
Oh, okay.
Joanne, okay,
No,
Tia?
not in this one.
Good, yes, could you follow up with us on that insurance guidelines for shuttered and or vacated buildings?
Yes.
What we need for that?
Mhm.
I think we need to be very conscious of keeping our utility costs as low as we can.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, I mean, we have to, like Hess is in right,
And it's, the heating and cooling is zoned and
well, I've been in that building many times. I hear what you're saying, it
Mhm.
sounds good on paper, but anyways, so if you could
Mhm.
at least provide to this committee on what insurance actually says you have to
Okay.
have.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we need this to move to the board.
please.
Oh, wait.
For more-
I'm sorry. So, I do have a question then.
Go ahead.
So the workers' compensation, we got dropped by ours and then they had to pick us back up because nobody else would pick us up, right? Like I don't know how that all works, but
So we were picked up by the state
yes.
for a while, but then we went back and EMC is our carrier.
Okay, that is
Yes,
our regular
yes.
carrier.
yeah.
Okay, nice. Thank
Yep.
you. Sorry, I missed that part.
And that happened like, was it before December, I think?
It was right for the new year.
Yeah, it was before the new year that they picked us back up
Okay.
and we switched back, yes. Mhm.
Sorry. Tom.
Yeah.
I have a question, and I don't know if this information is obtainable, because who knows? Is it possible to see the workman's comp claims by building?
We can request it.
Yes, we can provide a report, yes,
It'll-
without, oh, go ahead.
Well, so we can provide that from EMC coverage, which would be from December till current when they pick us back up. When we were in that pool, we cannot get anyone to provide us with detailed reporting. And so it'll be not as reliable a source of information. It would not be complete. And so, but we can provide from December to year end if you'd like. We can do that presentation.
Okay, and I'm sorry, you already said this. How long were we in that pool?
It was about,
It's like 5 months.
yeah, it was not even,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And it was, again, because we got dropped because of our rating. And so once you reach that rating, acceptable rating, then we can get back to
Yeah, it might be something to, think the committee, every now and then look at, just to give us an idea, if there's any great discrepancies between buildings, and if so, what are some buildings doing right as opposed to other buildings? And I know that there's, accidents do happen, I know, but just curious.
In that report, would it be anonymous or by names?
We would not provide names.
Correct.
It would
Just
classify,
be by building.
it would by building, by what type of incident occurred, and whether it was just, if it was medical only, and if it involved lost wages, but it would not give you the employee's name.
So, committee members, do you have, is your appetite to ask, staff to put this together for us?
The appointment.
I don't need to see everything.
What's that?
I don't need to see it other than that.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate, we should look at it, whether it's from the board or the, thank you. So we move that to the board. So moving to,
Wait, did you, because I interrupted you.
yeah, I didn't know if we
Sorry.
got to the,
Michelle, did they
did we
go?
move 4A to the board? Michelle?
No.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to move 4A to the board.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And I didn't hear which person moved.
Anybody not named Tom?
They were a good team, they did the same. The
Thank you very much. Moving on to 4B, purchase approval. Mrs. Elwell, we'll go back to Skyward. Thank you.
Thank you. So attached in the board docs was a number of software vendors that either the business office uses or technology uses. And all of these vendors are vendors that we've been using for many years, and they are things that we need to continue our operations. So the first one is Skyward and IS Corp. So Skyward is our financial and our student information system, and IS Corp is our hosted, where our database is hosted. And then the next one is their Microsoft subscription renewal, so Office products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. The next one is the WISNet, it's our internet provider. The next one is Extreme Networks. This is part of our cloud-based networking solutions also. Ditto, which is the screen mirroring, and yes, it's working. CDWG, which is our Google, that's part of our Google Workspace renewal, which is our Google Calendars and our emails and Google Sheets and Docs and presentations. And then Frontline is the employee evaluation management system and the absence management system. And that is all of them. Any questions on any of those?
Dan?
So, have we, stopped using Zoom as a district? Did we-
I don't know.
we never
I've
used
never
Zoom?
used Zoom
Okay.
since I've been here, unless, an outside vendor
Yeah.
starts a Zoom meeting, yes.
Yeah, no, just as a provider. Okay, thank you.
Billy? Dave? Go ahead. Carol?
For software.
I know, and subscription, it's nothing tangible. Once it's gone, after the years.
Just an abstract thought. A lot of these systems, once you get into them, do they work with other systems? I mean, once we get married to a system, we found in the past that you have to use this system because we just married into it.
So,
That's just an abstract
yeah.
thought too.
So Skyward and IS Corp do work with other systems, and I believe that Frontline and Skyward are kind of talk to each other for leads and things, right? Yep, okay. So we do look at different options of incorporating softwares, but I gotta be honest with you, to look at a different type of software to do what we're currently doing is it's very expensive to to look at and to change softwares, but Skyward, in my opinion, works very well for what we use it for, and I believe on the student side, they're happy with it. Yeah.
I know. The district has used it for
Mhm.
many years.
Now, as far as like Microsoft products, I mean, those have been around for 20 years, and I think everybody uses Excel for something. I mean, I use it every day for doing spreadsheets and calculations and things. This is also student-based software as well, that the students are using these pieces of software. Internet, I don't think we can function without having the internet. And WISCnet is probably our cheapest option. If we were going to go with something else, I think it would be more expensive. WISCnet is typically what governments and schools use. Colleges use WISCnet for services.
And just to be naive, this doesn't involve IT stuff that we're talking about.
Well, it does in that IT manages all of these pieces of software, yes, except for Skyward, because Skyward is managed by Skyward and IC Corp, or IS Corp. Sorry.
Is that the other TC network?
No, IS Corp is our hosting for our software. for Skyward, we actually host it offsite. We don't have it hosted in on site because that would involve buying servers and then you run into the risk of not being able to have your data if something happens. So it's better to have it hosted offsite.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion to move this to the full board.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. We'll go on to 4C, please. Chromebooks. This is, anyways. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yep, so after the presentation to request a purchase of Chromebooks that happened, I think it was almost 3 months ago, IT and I went back and we did an RFP. We sent out the RFPs, we got back all the responses, I think from like 10 different companies. Went through the RFPs, IT spent a lot of time picking through them because some of the companies didn't always present exactly what we had asked for in the RFP. I believe that we got down to 2 companies that actually presented what we had asked for in the RFP as far as service goes and the actual devices. When they, in the request, we actually split out the purchase of the carts separately from a separate vendor from the Chromebooks because they were actually cheaper from a different vendor. So we split it apart and we wrote the RFP telling the companies that we may possibly do that because it was beneficial for us to split it. And we also told them that we may not purchase all of them. However, after talking with Leah about Title I dollars and my team in my office that was working on the carryover, I believe that purchasing these Chromebooks out of the Title I dollars that we have remaining from 25-26 is our best option for using up Title I dollars that if we don't use them, we will lose those dollars. And also we are in need of buying Chromebooks for the district.
It seems like $480.
Billy?
Yeah, it's just gonna go up, correct?
Our technology prices do continually go up, yes.
I'll weigh in then. To me, this is a much bigger issue that's gonna happen, where there's been talk, and I think policy will get involved sooner or later on this topic of going from FaceTime to text.
Mhm.
And I think it deserves a whole different, more deliberations, and the board needs to set a strategy before we move forward with purchasing anything.
So if I may, I just want to chime in because all of our educational materials are computer-based. And in order to switch from completely computer-based to textbooks, workbooks, and even testing is done on the computers at this point, that is going to be a huge lift for any district, and it'll be very costly. It'll be more costly. So the plan is, the reason why they're buying the carts is so that they can have the technology on carts and they're not sending these Chromebooks home with kids. So that they can take those carts and move them out of the classroom and they can be doing other things and not continuously on. But that, you're right, that has to be a bigger discussion with teaching and learning department about how they're going.
Strategy on where we're going before we invest dollars. I mean, now we're getting on board with not sending these home with the students because they're not coming back damaged. That course left the barn a long time ago. I know we have over 8,000 Chromebooks somewhere in the district, unaccounted for or accounted for, or so I think we need to get a handle on this, and the board has to set a direction on which way we're gonna go with this. And I understand what you're saying, we need them, but before we start buying things for the future, the board needs to get their act together and figure out in a constructive way what the future looks like for the school district. Dan?
Tom, I agree with what you're saying, with the caveat that we have just hired a new superintendent, Dr. Gordon, who's on the video with us, and I think we're gonna have an interim deputy superintendent to be approved later today. So totally with you on I'm totally open to, a pillar of this district being back to basics. I'm on the exact same page as you and other members of the board, but we have to have the superintendent and her staff, Dr. Gordon, lead us through that, and then the board would endorse such a thing. That's my only, it's semantics, right? I'm totally with you. I'll be there when we're ready to vote on that sort of stuff.
And that's fine, but this is in front of this committee right now.
Yeah.
So I wanna get Lee involved with everything we do. So I'm saying, I wanna postpone what we're talking about before we bring it to the board.
Hey, this is Leah. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Leah.
Sorry.
Hi. So I just want to clarify, I totally understand where everybody's coming from with these. So frustration with Chromebooks in all regards has been brought to our attention. So as a building principal, as a TLE member, and now as superintendent, definitely we need to reevaluate how Chromebooks are used in the district. Technology prices are increasing, and so we do need to keep that in mind. Also, our Chromebooks are, some of them are not in great shape anymore. And, like Stephanie said, we're looking at using some title funds to replace some. I can tell you that the TLE committee has been working towards not having grades K3 have Chromebooks in their hands all day, every day, so that we can share our Chromebooks with the other grade levels as well. So currently, as we finished the 25-26 school year, it was everyone was 1-to-1, right? And so looking ahead, our computers aren't probably going to make it for a whole lot longer. So we have been working with Brett Berg and the TLE department, Brandy Grady, about how we can mitigate that. So looking at making just like class sets or grade level sets. So our students in grades K3 who need the most support with learning to read and learning their math are getting that direct instruction rather than relying on that technology. Stephanie is correct in saying that our curriculum that we use does support high use of dependence on technology. So the technology that the kids use is, like the tier interventions for math. So they're going to be using a different math program this year, but they've been using, in the past, it was Dreambox and Imagine Math. And so now we'll be using something else. And that is dependent on using that Chromebook for 30 minutes a day. Literacy is the same. So they use a program that supports their tiered intervention if they need that. And that would be students, all the way through K8. And so depending on what a student needs might depend on how much work a student needs with their Chromebook. As students get into the later grade levels, they do need their Chromebooks more to align with their curriculum because some of their reading and work is done on the computer. So it should be a progression for what kids need, whereas before it was just everyone's 1-to-1. And I do believe that there were some, let's just go on your computer when you're done with your work or whatever. So that can't happen. That has to change. Our kids need to be in front of academics all day, every day. And so that is what's going to be rolled out with the expectation this year, just to clarify.
I see Megan. Megan, I see you.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to point out too that we need the Chromebooks, even just to do the open literacy work that we're doing with the Hendricks Family Foundation donation. But generally speaking, I 100% agree that we need to have a large scale board vision for how to do these things going forward. I appreciate though what I'm hearing from Ms. Elwood and Dr. Gordon here as well.
Thank you. So, Billy?
We only got less than 5,000 students. Why do we have 8,000 Chromebooks?
Go ahead.
So if you look on the screen, there are quite a few that we just kept them, even though they were damaged. We're using them for parts.
Okay.
Yeah. And most, if not all of these are going to be out of warranty very soon. And that increases we're going to have to use our in-house staff to do the repairs on them as well.
Dan?
So I'm hearing what three people on the committee are saying we're in agreement that we're cautious, we want to see the overall vision, we want to reduce the use of devices, so I think all three of us are agreeing on that. But as I read the actual documents that's in front of us today, right now, you're suggesting that we would buy 720 new Chromebooks for $480 a piece, up to $480 a piece. That's $345,600. You went the extra effort to get the carts at a different price, 32 carts total for $19,000, right? And then we have $465,000 of Title I. Is it Title I dollars? Is that
Yes, it's Title I dollars, yes.
So we would send $465,000 back to Washington if we don't spend it? No, I don't know.
That is correct. Yes.
I have a question about that too. Cause usually when we lose money, then we don't get it back the next year. Is that true with that?
I don't believe that that's true with that. I think this, because it's, what it is it's carryover and you have so many months to use it.
Okay.
In the allocations for 26, 27, I believe, Leah, the 26, 27 allocations already been allocated and it's based on student counts in those buildings.
Yeah,
No?
no, I do not have the allocations yet. No, we can take a rough guess at what that would be. It shouldn't be too much different than what it was last year. But we usually don't get those till later.
But the allocations are based on student counts, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Third Friday.
Yeah.
Michelle, can you pull back up that little chart of the inventory of Chromebooks?
Yep.
Or whoever's coming up? So,
And this data was back in October, because I had put this together when, or was this, or April, I'm sorry, when
Yes,
Tom
correct.
had asked for it, yes.
Again, I understand all our conversation. I understand using federal funds, grant funds to do this, but we as a board with admin have to figure out a path and what we're doing. Not just buying this and then we forget about it. And then we say, I know we have open literacy that needs X amount for these 60 students. I just think we have to find some answers and a strategic plan on what we're gonna do with these for the future.
If I may,
Here's your friend Megan.
I'm just, that's just my thought as the chair. I don't wanna, we can forward this to the board and really get into it, but that's where I'm coming from, and I think it's gonna be further consternation. We're not gonna approve this until we study it further, which brings in politics. Excuse me, Megan, we'll get there.
I don't disagree with you at all. That it is a subject that we have to really dig our teeth in. Sounds to me like, they're already working on eliminating the usage at our primary levels, which is where we really need to start. And we need to continue to move forward with that effort, but we don't have anything to replace it with.
Yeah.
And so until we do that, we need to continue, and it sounds like the Chromebooks are falling apart. So we would just wind up with nothing if we don't have the Chromebooks for our kids to use. So I think it's a really good start that we're working on the kids, and I'm assuming 4K grade, but as we move that forward, we will continue to have the conversations about what kind of curriculum we want and how we want to present it to our students.
Thank you. Megan?
Thanks so much. I'm having just like a tiny hard time hearing, so I apologize if I'm about to be repetitive. But Mr. Hankins, I agree with you, and I'm just wondering if the committee chairs or if Board President Johnson, I don't know if there's a time that's already scheduled in this month where we can kind of have those larger scale discussions so that we can create that sort of the strategic, whether it's a strategic planning or strategic goal setting, not in a big small lowercase s strategic plan, not like a big whole thing, but I hear what you're saying, Mr. Hankins, and I agree with you. I really think it would be of great value Like we got to do some things now. There's timing and everything that we're hearing, and it's important. But then it's like, we need to carve out that space for ourselves to like say, okay, so now going forward, here's the vision, here's the strategy. So I just appreciate that. And I think that would be great if there's not something already scheduled for us to maybe do that.
Thank you. So here, Tia, sorry.
So, following up on what Executive Director said about the cost of transitioning from virtual, electronic curriculum materials to paper, it's very expensive. I mean, it is very, very expensive, and that is something that if we are gonna do that, we need money from the public. We need the public to say, okay, this is part of a referendum request. So I see that discussion being part of the referendum. What do we want our district to be? Dr. Gordon has already said, we are taking the steps we can right now to move away from as much, screen time as possible. But realistically, our hands are tied.
You could move approval of the expense with the proviso that the district administration works with the board to develop a plan that meets those particular needs, but then you can move this because you need the items. So.
Exactly.
But that gets at what you.
That's exactly where I was gonna go to. Not that great minds think alike, because you're just much better than I. Joanne, did you have anything more to?
Nope, it's all been said.
And I appreciate that TLE's working on this also, Dan, really good. Because I agree with what Kim said, and I'll move approval to the full board, or make somebody goes, I will say yay, as long as the caveat that we as a board will undertake this bigger, with administration, strategic plan for our future with this. Okay, so.
You move that as a chair, which makes sense.
Okay.
Right? You want it? I'm asking.
I will, well, I'm not sure. Mine is, oh yeah, I guess I can, right? So the original motion, I don't want to get into what some people would amend the motion. I just want it understood, because we have,
Are you requesting, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
are you requesting a motion for approval of this with the proviso that Dr. Earhart just said?
Absolutely. To move it to the full board.
Is there a motion from one of the committee members?
Tom was gonna, or you're gonna,
Make a motion.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did you get that, Michelle?
I just want to clarify
Go ahead.
that the caveat is that there is to be a plan to review
By the board and administration.
Yep.
The overall.
how
Best practice
technology and curriculum are being used.
for the future.
Okay.
Well said.
And that's it. Is everybody okay with that?
And then decided what the.
Okay, we do it the way we want it. Okay, thank you. Personnel recommendations, we'll go to exhibit A. Sorry, I lost my.
Stop
Which
doing
one
stuff. You were closing your stuff and it was making my screen bounce.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I was growling more at the technology than you.
Go to exhibit A, people.
Yeah, I'm good too.
Are there any questions from the committee on exhibit A? Dan?
So there's a bunch of important information in our documents here. I don't know if Dr. Gordon wants to kind of highlight anything in here to talk about in our open meeting here.
Dr. Gordon, you still there?
I am here, but I'm having a very hard time hearing what Dan asked for, or what was asked before that.
We're on exhibit A, so
Just, where's the microphone, your computer? Can you just repeat what I said? Or did you not?
So Dan Schoof is asking if there is anything that you would like to offer for information on the Exhibit A, because there is so much information on it.
Okay, let me pull that up.
Are you asking about anything in particular?
Well, just the, there's an assistant superintendent on there, there's a couple of principals on there, some dean of students, if these are in front of us, I assume the plan is to, but I don't want to be the one saying, here's what the plan is. I want somebody to tell me what the plan is.
Did you hear that?
No, I can only hear bits and pieces. There's a lot of rustling around.
Okay.
Would you like for me to respond? It's about if there's anything contained on Exhibit A that warrants any additional information for the committee to be aware of.
And he was
Okay.
specifically referring to the assistant superintendent, the principals, the deans, that kind of thing, and the plan.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we moved Miss McAllister to Robinson since she, I'm sorry,
I have a question. Can we talk about persons here?
oh, no,
Yes, you can talk about people and where you're moving them. What you cannot talk about
Okay.
is the quality
Reasons.
of their work, their personal, you can't talk about,
These general questions on,
right, moving, Mrs. McAllister to Robinson
right,
is an open,
okay.
conversation.
I just want to make sure we're good.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
yep, so we have moved a couple of the principals, Miss McAllister being one and Dr. Schrader being another one. So Dr. Schrader is going to fill the Merrill position. Because she was principal at BLA, she wanted to remain a principal, so she is going to go in to be Merrill principal. Dr. Stengel will be taking the interim assistant superintendent position at Colac, so he'll be working with the TLE department and me. Let's see. You asked about principals and about that position. Is there anything else you need clarification on?
So what's the plan for Cruzen? And then second question is, does Merrill have a dean? I can't remember where we ended up with our.
Yeah, I'm finished that.
It's still pending.
So the position for Fruzen is posted. And then is somebody else trying to talk about the dean? Hello?
He asked about the Merrill dean and whether there is one or whether there's going to be one, and wondered where the board ended up with that.
Well, the board decided to have a dean. Whether or not somebody applies and is hired for that is the question at hand.
And then what's the plan for Cruzen? We have a principal for Cruzen?
Yeah, that position will be posted there. That has legally has to be posted. So, I think, I'm not sure if it was posted yet. Dee Dee maybe can answer that. I have not looked to see if it was posted yet today.
I was wondering about the secretary.
Yeah, it is posted.
And okay, thank you, Dee Dee. I appreciate that. And then, the secretary from BLA is going to, Beloit Memorial for high school athletics. So there is an open secretary position at Merrill. So we're still looking to, fill that position as well. A couple of our deans have been put back in their positions. So, Todd and, Hackett and Gaston's deans will be back in place for the 26-27 school year. And so the other dean positions are open on weekend for interviews and applicants.
Okay, hold up, Leah, because he needed clarification on one of the things that you said.
Okay, sorry.
What was the athletics thing you said?
The secretary from BLA is moving to the high school as the athletic secretary. So Merrill's secretary is posted. It's still posted, and so we're seeking applicants for that position, I believe.
The athletic secretary resigned.
What? I'm sorry?
He asked if the athletic secretary resigned.
Yes, the athletic secretary, was she on, was she on this one or last?
Down bottom.
At the bottom? Yep.
Yes, the resignation.
Yeah, she resigned. Yep.
We heard.
Yep. Way at the bottom. She's like the fifth one from the bottom.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say this, hopefully Dr. Gordon can hear this. This is really clunky. This is like, you all know that I actually would like the administration to lead, but you have to lead us. You have to tell us what's going on. I'll just leave it at that. Read through documents and try to read between the lines. I would just appreciate being told what's going on in the district. So that's what we could work towards, so thank you.
Carol, did you have something?
I'm a little concerned about Merrill School, as there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resignations. Is there anybody left?
There is. I think the biggest problem with Merrill is there's been so much talk about closing Merrill. And so people start looking because everyone wants to make sure they have a job. And this is the prime time for educators to go looking for another job. So I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies while we're in the process of making decisions. When we decide we're not going to close Merrill, well, people jump ship because the uncertainty is too great for them to bear. However, we do have Dr. Schroeder, who is on board and actively looking at the openings and recruiting to ensure staffing for the upcoming school year.
Anybody else? Joanne?
What does LTC do to license mean?
A limited term contract, so they don't get the standard professional educator contract that has to go through the non-renewal process. With the limited term contracts, because they only have a 1 year with stipulations license, their position, their role automatically, their job ends at the end of the school year. And it's automatically accepted by the board that they resign. And then we have the option of rehiring them. Unfortunately, we don't have abundant pools of highly qualified educators to choose from. And so oftentimes we're left with hiring individuals who are in the process, either because they're going through an alternative pathway to becoming an educator, or it's their first year and they have not gotten their license yet. And so we don't give them a regular contract until they get their license through their institution.
Do we have any plans to help some of these people or encourage? I mean, it's like
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people and a lot of them were rehires, so they must have been hired under a limited term contract.
Correct. And so they're required to get at least 6 credits in order to be eligible to get another limited term, another 1 year with stipulations license to continue teaching. And that's until they finish their program. So they are progressing in their program. Otherwise, they're not eligible to receive another 1 year with STIPs if they're not making progress. It's a DPI limitation.
Joanne?
I am concerned about dual language still being filled with emergency licensed teachers. That was one of our big things, was we didn't want that. And I keep watching to see the other openings for dual language to be filled, and they are not. And Hackett School still has a way to make it, instead of having 4 Spanish-speaking teachers, only 2. And so fully licensed teachers too. I really still think that we need to, I strongly suggest that we go back and relook at that so that we have fully licensed teachers teaching children in the lowest grades. All the research shows that those are our most important years. And so I'm very frustrated that this is where we still are.
So Todd is the other elementary school. They have individuals that have been teaching DLI in the past. Just because they're limited term does not mean that they've been with us for years. And to have a different instructional setup in one school versus the other, to me, that's a lack of consistency, but I will perhaps, however, that is not what we have at Todd, and so we will have the two elementary schools with two different systems in one district.
Instead of having fully licensed teachers, I don't understand. Like,
Well, you're gonna have English speaking teachers.
award-winning teachers were there and we moved them out, and
Dual language immersion in and of itself assumes that the kids need to be immersed in dual language, not in an all English speaking teacher and an all Spanish speaking teacher.
that was the program we adopted, was all English, all Spanish for part of the day. It is the program we adopted when we adopted the program. That 50% was in English, 50% was in Spanish, and for most of the years that we've done the program, you had a teacher teach in English because there were dedicated subjects taught in English and dedicated subjects taught in Spanish. And so a person who has taught reading in English for 26 years, that's who I want teaching my child how to read in English. And yes, I want someone who has been teaching Spanish to be the one that's teaching my child how to read in Spanish. Mm-hmm. Yes. In order to make it the same on both, they're not even the same children, it's not the same demographics. It doesn't make sense.
All right, Glenn, thank you. I just want to bring us back to what, I understand what your concerns are with DOI, and that's not what we're trying to do here. And this will be brought forward later. But I understand. No, you made your point. That we're here to move Exhibit A onto the full board. And that's what we're looking for. I love the discussion, but we're not going to change anything here. The board has already acted on DOI. If we want to change it,
and we
that's a different thing.
voted that only fully licensed teachers would be filling dual language positions, Tom. That was what the board decided.
Right.
Then we may as well collapse the DLI program because we don't have that at either school, and that's what I'm trying to say. We don't.
We can though, we can.
But I don't think that
Just do a
comes through this
different way.
Okay.
Anyways, I just want to bring us back to what I'm not trying to shade anything. I just think, I want to get us back to our job that we're doing right here, right now, and that's to approve this Exhibit A to the full board. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion, no. Any nays? No. Motion carried. Thank you. Next meeting date will be in August.
4th, I believe.
Shall I get that up? Or-
I think it's the 4th. It's in the thing. The 4th.
August 4th. And I look for a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. It is 6.
Okay.
We take a 5-minute break before we start the next meeting then?
Very good. Thank you all.
The recording is still going, just so you know.
Can't talk bad about you or anything.
You could. I don't care.
Dee, do we have these essential
Other people do.
responsibilities for everybody at Fuller now, or is it just built as we hire people?
What do you mean essential responsibilities? I'm sorry.
So the HR, the manager, human resources operations, executive director of human resources, like, so this person has their duties all laid out there. And I think that it also was for the assistant superintendent, but some of the duties within the assistant superintendent, those used to be someone else's duties. And so like,
Thank you.
and for me, you know, it's important to know like what Rochelle is doing, what Jeff is doing. Because like, implementation of Act 20, early literacy initiative, I think that was Rochelle before.
That's oversee it, so they oversee Rochelle's
Okay,
position.
all right, okay. And then,
Where is,
my computer's not scrolling very well. I don't know if it's 'cause it is. And then there was the district payment calendar mentor mentee program and effective educator system. Is that his doing now, not Rochelle's doing anymore?
so this was updated, originally this was a TLE executive director, so this was updated by Teresa, so if this is something, I think Teresa's. Okay, so these are in flux.
All right.
I have them honest, but I have all the drafts for every single position in the district. We have so much turnover that who is doing what now.
Yeah, it's so confusing and like for someone coming in, confusing for them too, right?
So this should be, well, and he's going to have to help rewrite, because this is gonna be his department now, right?
Okay, so
And
then they'll divide it out kind of like.
Yeah, and so,
Between them, okay.
right, and so I think he may wanna keep this, or he may want to oversee the district, so there are changes, everyone has viewed it, Teresa viewed it a certain way, she wanted to keep
Yeah.
something to take it off for people's plates.
Right.
Leah, you know.
Yeah.
Luckily, she's in a different role now, but
Yeah.
did not get to this point, so hopefully Ryan now will.
Could be revived, could be revived.
Absolutely, it's all, and with all the cuts, that we continue to see, these job descriptions are making living very.
Right, that's, well, yeah, looking at the resignations too, so like, at what point does it make sense to have it so?
I
one of
moved
my-
mine from
one of
one
my
bank to
big
another, that
concerns
doesn't count
is
anything, does it, or?
all of those people
I took it out of first. And under a separate thing.
Yeah.
And it's 4.3 for.
But you haven't spent any money or anything since
Well,
March?
I gave 300 to my nephew because he wanted.
Oh, okay.
So that's all I got to report then?
Yes, and
Okay.
then, so you need to do the other part.
Okay.
And then on the, you should probably fill out the one that talks about where you have your money
Okay.
and just do it as an amendment. And then just refill it out and then just put that you're at admin now.
And I got a separate account for it. So.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's down there.
I know.
Is it good something out of it? All right, thanks.
Yep.
Yes, yes, I heard that more than once, and that's how you retain staff.
Hey,
is by
he's
having-
picking up after he says it's my bracelet.
Yep, and so that's what's gonna be so reminding us on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that he is going to be able to identify how he wants to take on responsibility in his department and how he is going to evaluate and have accountability. Because I think that that's, again, part of what happens when we have so much chaos and changes is things slip through the cracks and everybody's focusing on the big things and the things that are important, don't get me wrong, I'm not minimizing the importance. But it seems like it should be a process that just works on its own. Doesn't, and we don't find out until somebody calls and says, it's like, hey, you sent me that. Somebody reached to Rochelle and she said, oh, I had reached out to someone, not all. And so I'll definitely never know to get response.
How much work
Because
goes into doing an
that's-
RFP? Man hours. I wonder what I do all day.
You do it well. Not just do it.
And then
And
reviewing
that just
them all.
what Jane got back from most of that.
Exactly. It'll be cheaper for the long
Anybody else need water?
Anybody else need one?
Okay.
Oh, another one from Miss Carol.
Three, gotcha.
Missy, do you need water? Okay. Oh. Eric, you need water? Okay. All right.
What is the board meeting? It's,
Megan, can you hear
July
me?
20, no.
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're gonna get started then. I'm gonna call this meeting to order, our Teaching, Learning, and Equity meeting on July 7th. May we have a roll call, please, Michelle?
Thank you.
Megan Miller,
Present.
Tom Hankins has left the building.
He'll be back.
Okay,
Yeah.
apparently he'll be back. And Joanne Rue.
I'm present too. All right, so while Tom is gone, can we just for like fast, like, I'll make the motion and Megan seconds all of them, as long as everybody's in favor. Approval of agenda, aye. Megan? She's gonna be spotty.
Sorry about that.
Approval of the minutes?
So moved.
All right, any public comment?
No, there are no public comments.
All right. Okay, so, we have Eric and Missy presenting for us tonight. Some of the things that were in the original presentation have been pulled for a special meeting that is happening to be determined. So, if something that you were interested in asking questions about is no longer part of it, that is the reason why, and we will get all of that information at a soon to be determined date. And with that being said, the floor is yours. Can you still hear Megan?
I can.
Do you guys, I don't know, would you mind like sitting closer to Michelle so that Megan can hear?
Yeah, sorry guys. It's just, I can hear, it's just very distant. So I apologize for missing you earlier, but I've got my head next to my speaker.
Are you gonna move it?
Tom's here now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
That way you
Bigger
can
than the both
see
of them.
that too.
So thanks, Joanne. We're here tonight to present on the continuous improvement we've been doing in our department. We annually bring this information forward. So we're just following with that same cadence of bringing the work we've done forward to the committee. So over the last several years, we've leveraged a number of state and federal accountability reports. We've also intentionally engaged stakeholders to better understand where our systems are working well and where we need to improve. Rather than treating each report as a separate initiative, we've intentionally looked across all of them to identify common themes, because different reports measure different things, but together they tell a much more complete story about our district. Those common themes now guide how we prioritize our improvement efforts and where we focus our resources. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is not to review every report in detail, but instead we want to demonstrate how we use multiple sources of information to drive continuous improvement and ultimately improve outcomes for students.
Okay, so this next slide.
What do you guys prefer? You want questions as we go? Or at the end?
This first question might be better right now. So can you explain to some of the new board members what this is? What the ESSA,
That's the next slide.
The litany of all of these, all of this, because it is confusing for people that aren't in education and with new board members, I think it would really help.
That's the next slide.
Okay, so this is just, like Missy mentioned, these are the different reports. ESSA is a federal identification that districts that are title receiving districts end up participating in. It's through the Every Student Succeeds Act. And what that does is it gives individual schools an identification on specific student subgroups and whether or not they're meeting the U.S. Department of Ed's standards in terms of where those students should be. So it's a combination of academics, growth, and proficiency, as well as if it's a high school, graduation rates, attendance rates, and then multilingual learners, their access scores, which measures their English fluency. IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So it's another piece of federal legislation that can give a district a federal identification. That identification isn't issued to individual schools, but it's issued to districts in total. The Racial Disproportionality Report comes out of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act as well. That's taking a look at racial discrepancies in two different areas, one being whether or not a district is referring students of a particular race more so than other students for particular IEP areas like emotional behavioral disabilities or learning disabilities. The other is discipline practices. So the U.S. Department of Ed keeps a pulse on school districts' discipline data, and we get federal or can get a federal identification for discipline practices that may appear like we are applying harsher discipline practices to specific racial subgroups for students with IEPs. And that is specifically looking at exclusionary discipline, so discipline that results in out-of-school suspensions up through expulsions. The other two dashboards here, I'll talk more in detail when we get there. They're not actual reports, but within the IDEA LEA determination report, there's a section that requires us in special education to monitor our early learners. So those are our 3-year-olds through 5-year-olds who are not enrolled in 5K. And so we've done some work around those indicators. And then the graduation rate improvement work is specifically looking at indicators 1 and 2 of the IDEA LEA determination. And that is graduation rates and dropout rates for students with disabilities. So like Missy mentioned, our district has multiple state and federal accountability identifications. So state, remember, accountability metrics are the school report card. What's unique about all of these metrics, whether it's the school report card, the ESSA, site-based identifications, or even IDEA, they're all using the same data sets. So when we talk about academic achievement, we're talking about proficiency rates as measured by the forward, the DLM, which is the dynamic learning maps or the alternate assessment that students with the most significant cognitive disabilities are able to take if their IEP states that that's their best way to measure academic performance, as well as ACT when you get to the high school. So yeah. Any questions, I guess, about that kind of overview? Otherwise, the next parts are at each of those sections in a little more detail.
Maybe a quick question. Big picture, thanks, Tia, this is helpful. So are the populations we're talking about generally in this whole report you're giving today, everyone or just all students in the district are in this population that we're reporting on today?
So when it comes to the ESSA reports, yes,
Okay.
because those can be any subgroup of students in a school building.
Mhm.
The IDEA is students with disabilities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Does IDEA cover IEPs and 504s?
No.
Just IEPs?
Just IEPs. Yep. Yes, there's no federal reporting around 504s. It's another plan that a student can qualify for if they have a medical diagnosis but are not in need of special ed. They just need some prescribed accommodations. It's governed under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And it's not, sorry, Carol, it's not education-based law either.
It'll follow you post-graduation. Yep. Where IDEA stops as soon as you walk the stage.
The racial disproportionality report, is that everybody or is that just special ed?
Just special
Just
ed.
special ed, yeah.
Any other questions?
So first set of data that we're going to take a look at is the ESSA reports. So like I mentioned, Every Student Succeeds Act, the federal government through that piece of legislation tracks how well subgroups of students are performing in Title I schools. So a school or a district that receives title funding then has to be subject to the accountability metrics as outlined in ESSA. ESSA has 3 tiers of identification. So from the top is the most severe to the least severe. So if an entire building is underperforming, a building can be identified as in need of comprehensive support and improvement. And you can have that in lowest performance, meaning all students in that school are not performing academically where they're supposed to be. It's not 1 or 2 particular subgroups, so they no longer tease out individual subgroups. It can also be issued if you have overall low graduation rate. So if your building, students in the building may be achieving or having adequate performance academically, but it's not resulting if they're a high school in graduation. There's either high numbers of dropouts or kids are not graduating, and graduation is always measured in either a 4 or 7 year cohort.
Should we talk about what the subgroups are?
Yes, I think that's coming up. The next level is ATSI, Additional Targeted Support and Improvement. And that is for particular subgroups of students. So a building can be issued an ATSI identification, and it could be for students who are Hispanic or Latinx only. Or it could be for students that are Black, or it could be for students with disabilities. It's particular subgroups. And then the least severe is the TSI, or Targeted Support and Improvement. When it comes to this, the way that that's measured, so TSI is a student group that scores in the bottom 10% relative to all student groups statewide, and the bottom 10% relative to other racial and ethnic groups or service provision groups. So the groups that can be identified in these reports are all federal race codes. So those are all racial subgroups. And then what ESSA calls service provision groups are your students with disabilities, your low socioeconomic status, and your students that are multi-language learners. So it can be any of those groups of students. CSI is bottom 5% overall performance among all Title I receiving schools. So the other kind of nuance with this report is the metrics are measuring against other title receiving schools, since not all schools get issued ESSA reports.
Title was receiving schools throughout the country or throughout the state of Wisconsin?
Statewide, because so they say statewide. I believe, and I can look on this to get you for certain, but I believe it's because the way it works is the U.S. Department of Ed, they approve the plan. So Wisconsin submitted their ESSA plan to the Department of Ed. the US Department of Ed approved that plan, and the way that they then report back to the US Department of Ed is through their monitoring of schools. So they set the metrics for identifying the schools as outlined. I'm almost 100% certain on that, but I can definitely look into that and circle back around. So with ESSA not being special education specific, typically the monitoring of ESSA comes from the district level. But since we were facilitating our IDEA work about 4 years ago, the DPI was like, we've been trying to get a hold of somebody about your ESSA. And they just reached out to me because I had a connection. And so I just took it on. So full transparency, 4 years ago, I didn't know all the nuances of ESSA either. So this chart then, this is just our district ESSA identifications over time. And so you can see that actually as our schools have progressed from 2020, or 2022, sorry, which is the first year that I started kind of keeping tabs on this and working to support our buildings after connecting with people at DPI. We have tracked, so Beloit Learning Academy has always had a CSI identification. So because they're subgroups, they can't tease out, right? It's all lower performance. They have that identification. With that comes a consultant from the Department of Ed. And so we've been meeting with the DPI consultant and Beloit Learning Academy over the course of time. They create their plan, they submit their plan to the Department of Public Instruction. The Department of Public Instruction approves or doesn't approve a plan. And then that DPI consultant is essentially like an accountability partner to ensure that we are moving forward with their school improvement plan the way that they've developed it. And then we've had multiple sites that have had TSI identifications over time. Initially, we had one school that had an ATSI identification, and that was Fruzen. And Fruzen has that ATSI identification for students that are identified as 2 or more races. And at the time it was issued for students with disabilities. They should be able to exit out. So we've done some very strategic work with Fruzen the last 3 years. I've met with their leadership team, done some really prescribed continuous improvement work with them. And we just met with their team at the end of this year to go through the continuous improvement rubric that the state has. And their systems are able to be put at fully in place. And so based upon that and the other exit criteria that DPI has set, there's no reason right now that they should not receive recognition of exiting that when the new identifications get released next school year, and those always are released in April in the spring. Hackett did join ATSI identification. They got that identification last school year for their Hispanic Latinx population. But a couple things to kind of note. So as we go over time, we are seeing more and more of our schools receiving the ESSA identification, particularly the TSI identification. So this last year of all of our sites, only 2 of our buildings don't have identifications. That would be Aldrich Middle School and Gaston Elementary School. All of the others have at least a TSI identification. TSI identifications can come and go each year. It's based upon the data that's being collected. If a school gets an ATSI identification, they're stuck with it for at least 3 years because the state basically says that true continuous improvement work, you're not going to see growth in sooner than 3 years. And so they make you stick with it for 3 years. When you get to that ATSI, we have to submit the plans to the state. The state approves those plans. ATSI doesn't come with a consultant though. So we support our buildings at the district level that have ATSI identifications. We just submit those plans to DPI for approval from them. One note though to celebrate, and I did put it in the red boxes since my department is the one that supports students with disabilities. Because of the continuous improvement work we've been doing through IDEA, which we'll get to in the next few slides, you can see that our students with disabilities subgroup has actually fallen off quite a few of the identifications over time, unlike some of the other racial subgroups that have ended up being added on to some buildings. So
Bravo.
any questions about ESSA? I think this would be another good time to pause.
I'm real concerned about the TSI. What do they have to do?
They have to create a school improvement plan that specifically addresses those student subgroups for targeted work. But there's no reporting to the state and there's no monitoring at the state level. It's all internal, local.
When you look down, you see black, 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 and black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the district doing about that?
So we met with every single principal, Eric and I did. Again, this is not a special ed thing. We met with them to go over their identifications prior to our SIP work day, where they created their SIP plans with intentional focus on their subgroups so that they were aware of their identifications that came out and helped them think through action plans to address those. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So we have essentially technical assistance staff that have been assigned to the district. And so they work through CISA 2 because that's just how DPI, does it. They funnel things through the local CISAs. So Liz Ponto is a technical assistance personnel from CISA 2. She meets with us regularly, and that is so specifically to work through the fact that we have so many S identifications as we build a district improvement plan. She's there to support. So she's met with us, and it's not just Missy and I. So teaching and learning is involved in it. We've met, so Rochelle and Jeff and Dr. Gordon has been a part of it. And so that's the work that we need to do as a district.
And historically, the building continuous improvement plans, there's not been an encouragement to align with the district's continuous improvement plan. So we worked on ours with Liz, our technical assistant person, like Eric said, and then presented the district improvement plan to all building principals. And it was a directive to align your building improvement plan to the district. So there's intentional work being done at the district level and then at building level.
It seems like this is a leadership thing. Like when you look and see who's not identified under TSI, we've got principals that have been in the district for a long time. And then when I started looking, we have a lot of new principals. And is that a factor, do you think, that?
There could be some. So the data is lagged, though. So I'm trying to think, like Mr. Whitney, let's say, not necessarily a new principal because he was an AP in our district, but he was new to leading Hackett. But Hackett's identification is from data that would have come to fruition under the previous principal and associate principal that were in that building at that time. Okay. So,
and I know you can't release it, but I'm assuming you've looked at the new data that's coming out to see what it's looking like.
In terms of
for ESSA.
ESSA?
This is
the most recent data.
because it gets released in April.
No, I mean, the most recent assessment data that is embargoed.
Oh,
to give us an idea of
the
what we might
forward.
be looking at in the future.
Yes.
Because we should be looking at all of those subgroups now at last year's data. And Hackett's a particular concern. All of those, and we have English language learners and the Hispanic Latino, and that's our DLI school. And Robinson also has Hispanic Latino, also a DLI school. Or was it DLI school? So that's very concerning.
Yeah. Good job on that, students with disabilities.
So I'll go into that a little bit more, because that was something that we obviously celebrated internally with our department, but when conducting staff focus groups, you know, understandably, there's plenty of staff expressing concerns that students with disabilities are falling further behind. That was their feedback to us and their concern. And so we said, what does our growth data look like? So let's take a look at it. And what we found, when we looked at growth, not just proficiency, we found a much more encouraging picture like Eric shared. We found that students with disabilities are making academic growth at rates comparable to, and in many cases exceeding, their peers without disabilities. And so, like it says on the slide, in 8 of our 10 schools, students with disabilities demonstrated growth equal to or greater than students without disabilities in at least one content area. In several schools, students with disabilities actually outperformed their peers in both reading and mathematics growth. That doesn't mean that we're satisfied with those results, but of course we're going to celebrate that. It means that while proficiency remains an area of focus, our instructional practices are helping students make meaningful progress. So I'm not going to read every single data point on this slide, but there are several examples worth highlighting here. For example, Robinson. Students with disabilities demonstrated nearly double the English growth of their peers and nearly 5 times the math growth. Taking a look at Hackett, they showed stronger growth for students with disabilities in both English and math. At Beloit Memorial High School, students with disabilities exceeded the growth of their peers in both content areas as well. So for us and our department, that's encouraging. Those indicators are encouraging to us that our students are learning and growing, even while many entered well below grade level.
Can I ask about that?
Yeah.
Is that from the report cards?
Yes.
So it's not really labeled. Why are we saying comparison higher, lower, slightly lower? Why isn't there the actual number there to show that what the comparisons really are? And Robinson, nearly double, 1.6 means they're really not growing. Because in order to have an academic years of growth, you need to have a 3. You did less than half of what they should be doing.
Right.
And yes, it might be higher than the regular ed, but that means the regular ed, nobody's growing over there. So that just means that building's in crisis. I wouldn't call that good news for Robinson or anybody else for that matter. Our kids are just barely, if at all, making academic growth. And, you know, again, if it's not 3, which there are some 3s, but we need to be doing 3 or better to be really talking about the fact that we're making any kind of academic growth. And I do wonder about whether this is really a good way to compare, and just because of the gyrations that this state goes through to create these growth figures. And the growth figures for special ed students are comparing growth for other special ed students. And the growth rate for non-special ed students are comparing growth with non-special ed students. So I'm not sure that those comparisons are an appropriate way to even look at that data. I'm not sure it's an appropriate way to look at the data. But when I look at that, I see the fact that it doesn't look like most of our special ed students, except for Aldrich and Fruzen.
And the high school.
And the high school, but, depends on what you're looking at, because when I looked at the high school, 39% of the high schoolers, special ed high schoolers didn't even take the assessments, so I don't know how they're getting that number. When I looked at it, Merrill didn't have a number at all because there was a less than 20 cohort there. Gaston's not on the list. And, you know, again, higher, lower, slightly lower, I don't know what that means.
We
So
can
if
get
you're
you that
gonna
information.
put the numbers in there, so people can actually see, if you're gonna do it at all, and it should be labeled, what it is that we're looking at, because, I think I know what that is, so that's why I went looking. But our kids aren't making that, we're not doing stellar in growth. It's just not really, great, and there's a couple of places that are in crisis. Robinson being one of them, because nobody's growing in Robinson, or hasn't been. And I'm just concerned about that whole thing.
So this is the 24-25 DPI report card, correct? That we're looking at?
Yep.
So that, Carol, the comparison group is all students? Is that correct?
All students or students without disabilities?
Well, it's the comparison to students without disabilities. So students with disabilities compared to students without disabilities in the building.
Okay, so.
And it's only, remember, elementary, we're only talking 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students because they're the only ones that take forward exam.
Okay, so the Robinson, growth is 2.2 for the students with disabilities, 0.9 for students without disabilities for English language arts. And for mathematics, it's students with disabilities, 1.6, students without disabilities, 0.3.
Correct.
For Robinson. If you want the other one.
I have them.
Oh, okay.
I have them. I actually made my own chart. But again, nobody's growing there.
At Robinson.
Robinson.
At Aldridge Fruzen and the high school, it looks like our students with disabilities are making average growth. So what they're capable of and what their support system is that's in place for them seems to be working for them. We definitely need to focus on our elementary classrooms
And we don't disagree.
Yeah.
Again, though, the reason why we thought it was important to show this is because there's a narrative out there that our students with disabilities are off than our students without disabilities, and that's simply not the case.
Yeah.
So, I keep hearing
Megan.
Yeah.
Megan, go ahead.
Hey, thanks everybody. So, okay, just a couple things. I'm not sure if we're looking at, if we're looking at the report card when we're saying there's not growth, because like I just pulled up the Robinson Elementary report card from 24-25. And so the way the report card goes, right, there's like the achievement score, there's also a growth score, there's also a target group outcomes, and there's also an on track to graduation, right? And so like those 4 areas academically outside of like what, the attendance pieces. I'm sorry, their dad is leaving and they're excited. Okay, sorry. Anyway, sorry. So like those outcomes, in addition to like attendance data and things like that, those are the things that determine our overall report card score. So I'm confused about why we're saying there's no growth. And I'm not saying that it's like spectacular, but there is a growth score that I'm looking at, as part of that overall score for Robinson, which certainly there's lots of room to improve, right? Which is, this whole thing is couched under continuous improvement, right? So 100%. What I'm seeing in this presentation though is we're looking at like metrics of growth, which is different from metrics of achievement, but those metrics of growth are predicting future achievement. So what that tells us, and I think I just heard Joanne, it's still a little bit hard for me to hear, but I think I just heard Joanne say this too. We're not evaluating necessarily just the students in a 1-year snapshot of time. We're evaluating our processes and our systems, because like we don't want to keep doing something if it is broken. But if we do want to keep doing something, even if we're not there yet, that is producing growth, right? Because like I know nobody likes to hear this, but things do take time. Human people aren't machines. Like it's complex. It takes some time. So all that just to say, I actually really appreciated this slide. In fact, it was the one that I found myself coming back to over and over again, because it's actually it's hard conclusive data that can show us average growth. Like this is how, not just the school district of Beloit, this is just like how school districts evaluate and measure systems. So like if something is working really, really well at, let's say Aldrich, and it's not working well somewhere else, that gives us the information that we need to discern, okay, well, is this a staffing issue? Is this a materials issue? Like what are the differences so that we can continue to grow? So I wanted just to say thank you to, Eric and Missy for putting this together. And I'm so encouraged to see this growth. And I just want to be really clear, because you guys in the presentation itself are talking about, competing narratives. I am not saying I'm so excited to see that we're not performing well overall, because achievement is different from growth. I am excited, though, to see that we do have systems that are producing growth and that are working, and that we should continue to invest in. It kind of goes back to Tom's comment earlier about we got to be strategic about our decision making. So this is going to help us be strategic about what to continue to support and to sustain. So I just want to be really clear, because of that narrative piece, we have to make sure that we're discerning between achievement and growth, because not only are they two completely different things, they're also weighed differently. And I think our algorithm is higher for the school district, like weighs higher for growth than it does overall for achievement anyway, because as we know, all of the report cards are algorithms that are different for each school, and it's very difficult to compare one to the other. But that's all I had to say on that. I don't know if that helps or is of value to anybody, but there's a lot of good stuff here.
So I just want to add, we don't have Gaston because, and I'm sorry I didn't note this, but Gaston had less than 20 because their numbers are so long, so they don't have a score for students with disabilities.
Well, it was the same for Merrill. I don't know where you have a score for Merrill. Because Merrill doesn't have a score. They often have a score 2.3 for students without disabilities. There was no score.
So kind of like what Eric said, this slide is just capturing one of the important takeaways that we walked away with after looking at the data, is that the perception and data don't always tell the same story. And our staff perceptions were real. They're reflecting on the challenges that educators experience every day working with students who have significant needs. But like we said, when looking at the objective growth data, we found that students with disabilities are in fact making academic progress. But that doesn't mean that our continuous improvement work is finished. It means our challenge isn't simply helping students grow, it's helping them accelerate the growth while maintaining the positive gains that we're seeing.
So we're going to move into then the IDEA LEA determination. So this is, again, the federal identification that's issued under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And so this looks at two primary areas that's broken up into multiple indicators. So there's a compliance component to this. That is things like our district is timely in our initial evaluations for special education, that we are timely with our preschool transitions that we need to do, that we are appropriately completing post-secondary transition plans for students that are ages 14 to 21, and that we have timely and accurate reporting when it comes to DPI needing to pull their data the couple times a year that they pull it. So Beloit has always, at least since I've been here, been able to say that our compliance is 100%. We've never missed the mark in any of our compliance indicators. But like we know, the results have been and continue to be less than desirable. And so the results components really are looking at those graduation rates. So again, are students with disabilities graduating in their 4 or 7 year cohorts? Dropout rates, like are students with disabilities not dropping out from school, which is what we hope. Math and ELA assessment participation. So that's just the mere act of actually taking the standardized assessments that the state issues. And then math and ELA proficiency, and then ed environments. And so ed environments is a really important one for us. And that is the percent of time that students with IEPs are actually being educated with their non-disabled same age peers. And so in order to meet the mark on that, we have to have 80% of our students with IEPs being educated with their non-disabled peers at least 80% of their day or more.
So that's determined by DPI, right? Is that?
Well, we calculate environmental codes. So there's a series of codes, like if a student who's 5 years old through age 21, if they're with their same age non-disabled peers for at least 80%, they get assigned an A. That's their environmental code. If they're 79% to 40 or 49 maybe, they're a B. And if they are below 49%, meaning they're primarily self-contained, they're a C. There's also homebound, right? There's D and F. There's a couple other letters.
So Eric,
Yeah.
so you're getting dinged because you're giving them what their individual needs require. If they're a child who can only stay in the classroom for 50% of the time, or even 25% of the time, then we get dinged by DPI because they're not in there at least 80% of the time.
Yes, essentially.
Yes.
However,
That's where it is. Yeah. That's
however,
where it is.
like the push is not that that a student needs to be with their non-disabled peers because we get some sort of a score.
Right.
We need to be providing the supports and services that are truly needed for the students that are in their home school environments, because we're legally obligated to provide them an education in their home school and not, ship them off to another school.
Yeah.
Because we created a program. And that's where these identification, this one came from, that measurement piece, because at one point in time, it wasn't based always on student need. Students with disabilities were put together with groups of other students with disabilities, and they were educated in an environment because somebody thought that was what was best.
Right.
So
I'm speaking as a mom.
Yep.
And as an educator.
Yep.
And as a board member right now. And yes,
3 for 1.
right there, the long time ago, the pendulum was way over here. I'm seeing from my perspective that our pendulum has swung this way. Something that you said, okay, so we're not creating programs and shipping kids to other schools within the district. Do we have early childhood kindergarten in every building now, or is that in just certain buildings?
Not.
And does that affect
So
our
we
score?
we do, in the sense that we have 4K in all of our buildings, and that's early childhood.
Okay,
3-year-old programming, no, they're in kind of a nuance because they're not public school age, but we legally have to provide them some services.
but 5-year-old kindergarten, like when my son came to the district, he could only go to either Converse or Robinson in order to have early childhood kindergarten.
No,
program.
That's not
Now we don't have that.
correct.
Every kindergarten needs a, okay.
just like when I first came to the district, we had, like, Todd was the only elementary school that had a self-contained program for students with emotional behavioral disabilities.
And now?
Now we support the buildings to program students in their homes because one building can't house, especially now with all of the grade level, for K through grade 5 in our elementary buildings. We can't have just one site that gets all the kids that may need some additional support, so.
Just the 21%.
It's of those, so they assign us, if we didn't meet their metric, 0. And actually I'll Missy put up the next slide. If we partially met the metric, we get a 1, with the exception of ELA and math proficiency. You can get decimal points now. That was changed. And if we're meeting the expectation, we get a 2. So the percent is, it's the numbers added up, right? Divided by the number of indicators that are in that category, times 100.
So having the IB program and the transitions program, all of those like special programs where the children are just in that room for the majority of the day, is that part of why we're at 21%? And then, of course, those same children, we're not going to have them participate in the ACT and the Ford exams.
No,
right?
but they do in DLM.
They do
And that gets factored in for proficiency, right? Because that's the alternate.
What's DLM?
Dynamic learning maps, and that's for alternate assessment too.
Okay.
Yep, so that's included for the proficiency pieces. So, and actually to answer your question directly, no. So if you look up here, indicator 5A is the ed environments for our kindergarten through age 21, and we actually are at a 2 for that. So we're meeting the state's expectations. Our 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds, we're at a 1. We anticipate always being low in this area because we don't have universal 3-year-old programs.
Yes.
So all of our 3-year-old services are considered self-contained.
Yeah.
So even if we want to
that could be something.
it could. We're right now we don't.
Yeah.
So
That'd be lovely.
so even if a student, if it were appropriate for a 3-year-old to, just get some, let's say, speech and language services in a 3-year-old like daycare setting, because we don't offer that.
Yeah.
They're coming in for what is considered pull-out minutes.
Right.
So
Thank
Yep.
you.
Is this chart part of an actual report?
yes.
And where's the actual report?
So the report is in the secure file exchange that gets issued. So the special ed report, IDA report, is not a report that ever gets publicly released because of the sensitive identifiable information that's included in the report. But what is on one of the very first page is all of our indicators and the score. So the rate value they give us, the percentile that they give us, and then the point that is assigned. And so I just took that to do growth over time and put it into my own spreadsheet.
So Eric, does this mean that we have a problem with students dropping out as students that are identified as having special ed? Having a higher dropout rate?
Yeah. And they don't graduate either within 4 or 7 years.
What is grade exiters?
That's like graduation. That's what they call graduation, is grade exiter. So a 12th grade student graduating with their 12th grade class.
So what about our children?
Dropouts.
Yep.
What about our children that can go until 21? Does that come against us then when they stay?
So yes, like the very next year, but then not again because of that cohort. That's why they do 4 and 7-year cycles for that. Yeah.
What's the difference between grade and dropout exiters?
Yeah, so grade exeter is graduation. So
Mhm.
graduating on time.
On
Like
time.
if you're a senior and your senior class is graduating, class of 2026, you're a student with an IEP, you graduated with your class of 2026. Dropout exeter is you left our system, and that can be at like any point. So they could have left us, and we've had conversations like this community in this district we have a very transient population here, and there are times where families leave, but we don't get a notification that another public entity picked them up. We get dinged as a district for that.
Yeah.
So
if we ever indicate that they have left and it's unknown where they are going next, that's considered and coded as 99 as a dropout.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we have some good stuff too. All this stuff on the bottom, we get our points for all of that, huh?
Yeah. And we've been making some, like you can see, ELA proficiency, is at a yellow. So we're starting, that again is with that growth, right? It's not where we want it by any means, but we're starting to kind of move in that same.
And the environments are changing.
Yep.
That's growth.
So this chart then is just trying to put a visual to our ed environments and that growth component. So as you can see, like as we've increased inclusive opportunities for students in our district, our growth did not suffer. In fact, it has started to lead. That it's just to try to show that there's not really a trade-off, right, between the two. We've seen for students with disabilities, Todd was a good example this last year that with like MAP scores and some of our internal assessment, tools that we're using, the more opportunities that some of their students with disabilities got to hearing that instruction for the first time by a highly qualified staff member, they've actually started like they're achieving versus being not exposed to that instruction in real time.
What does this mean at the bottom about self-contained pressure is often noticed? Can you tell us more about that? For Beloit Memorial.
Oh. Yeah, so high school tends more than others grades to oftentimes have staff that feel that students with disabilities, they question. I don't want to say feel because I'm not them and I don't want to speak for them, but we often get questions around whether it's appropriate for them to be in those higher level credit bearing classes versus a modified class. And so because of the credit weight that goes with it, we just tend to get questions more frequently at that level. And that's, at least in my experience, that's pretty typical. My previous district, it was similar to that as well.
How do we grade students? Okay, full inclusion, a child is in a regular math class, but they absolutely need lots of accommodations. How do we show that in our reporting to parents? Like, do they just have really low grades on the report cards?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends. If their needs are great enough, the IEP team could have come together and stated that they were going to have some form of like a modified grade for that class, but that has to be an IEP team decision that comes up with that. Otherwise, the student is subject to standard grading procedures, and the grade they get is the grade they get with the accommodations that are being provided in those environments.
Thanks.
You could make the opposite argument, that the more inclusion is affecting the regular ed environment, because our regular ed kids aren't doing so well.
I don't know that that's fair to say that because students with disabilities are in a
Well,
classroom.
it's fair to say that, you know, the least restrictive environment is, what did you put here? Reading is not, where it's not a trade-off.
But we have,
Inclusion increased, growth didn't suffer.
but when we had self-contained environments like the environment at Todd, those they literally got zero learning. It was just managing behaviors, putting out fires all day long. Those scores for those students were abysmal. Those environments where it's one school out of 6 that everyone is sending their kids to don't exist, and we're starting to see our students' growth come forward. So I feel like I can make that argument.
So now we're talking about creating an alternative school for kids with behavior. I mean, it's like, you know, we've got all these different trade-offs, but it's like,
An alternative
the
school.
teachers are struggling, is what I'm hearing, trying to balance all of the special ed kids and the regular ed kids, and make that work. And you're saying inclusion is working, which is fine, but when we look at our regular ed results, that's not looking so good either. So, you know, there are trade-offs here, and we gotta figure out what's going on, because we need all of our students to be achieving at a higher level. And I guess we need to be really looking at that, and like, if we go back to that first one, it's like, why is it that, you know, particular groups are struggling mightily, like, you know, our African American children in, what was it, 6 schools, 8 schools? You know, so we have a lot of different things that we need to be looking at, but I don't think we can dismiss the fact that teachers are concerned about some of these special ed needs in their classrooms, and if they're pretty high. And where does, we also do a lot with paraeducators, and a lot of paraeducators are out there. And I'm not sure I know how all that works either, in terms of how they work in the classroom, you know, how are they being supportive of not just the special ed kids, but the classroom, you know, the entire classroom.
They can't. When they're a special ed para, they can't be supportive of the entire classroom because they're assigned for a particular student or students that are in that environment.
I don't think the alternative school is, I mean, if we were going to have a school within a school setting for elementary education and it was only students with special ed identification and we're putting them in that room, that would be an EBD self-contained classroom again. I think what the goal of the alternative school is to take children who have behaviors that are making it hard for them to learn and for the other children in their classes to learn, putting them somewhere else for a time, not permanently, so that they can improve and then eventually go back to their home school, which would be very different than an EBD self-contained classroom too. So I think we're very much at the very beginning stages of that. That's why, is that right? Is Dr. Gordon still there?
Yep, I'm here. That is correct, Joanne. That is very correct. So the purpose, yeah, the purpose would be not, it's not special ed oriented. It's anybody, right? And so it would be under the same premise that Aldrich operates, that kids with a high need, the behavioral situations, you know, instead of, you know, possibly going to a hearing or whatever the direction they may be headed, would go into that environment and then, you know, get modifications that they may need throughout the day. But the end goal is to always come back to the regular school setting.
Thank you.
And what do we do with kids that are identified as EBD Or are we just not identifying them as EBD?
Now we have students that are identified as EBD.
What happens with them?
The IEP team creates programming that meets the needs identified in the plan. Into the evaluation.
Do you have any data on how many EBD kids we have, as opposed to what we used to have?
Emotional behavioral disability.
Yeah, that information is all public. Yeah, we can get that for you.
Because, when we stopped making the program, did we stop identifying them?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That's by law, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
there's
part of the
federal law
idea.
that drives that.
We have to.
And we didn't stop the programming for them. We just stopped it in one building at the elementary level. And supported buildings and having self-contained. I mean, spent tons of time at Hackett this year. We had students that were in self-contained environments at Hackett. Same thing with Todd.
Yeah.
It just occurs in their home school versus sending them
Oh,
to one site.
I will say, when Todd had that program, it was very hard to staff. And for many years, it was also another emergency licensed teacher in that classroom for much of it. And so their goal was just to keep them safe. That was unfortunate. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we're good. So the next one then is the discipline and equity, or the racial dispro report. So this comes out of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Again, this is annually reviewing whether students with disabilities from specific racial or ethnic groups experience either higher rates of special ed identification, more restrictive educational placements, or higher rates of suspension and expulsion. And the goal is to ensure equitable treatment and access for all students. So we do not have significant disproportionality identified for our district in any of those areas. So we're not disproportionately identifying a particular race group for special education. We're not disproportionately identifying a particular race group in a specific disability category, nor are we disproportionately putting one racial or ethnic group in a certain placement or environment or something other. We do though have some discrepancy that's been identified with our discipline. And so this is not new. We've had this for a couple years, that we just continue to, students with disabilities tend to have higher levels of out of school removals. And the concern is most pronounced among our Black students with disabilities and students that are identified as multiracial.
So with those, once they exceed 10 days, then they go to a manifestation, and then obviously there's something that needs to be added to their supports, right?
You must.
Yes.
Yes. And so, I know this isn't good data, but I would rather see this than have schools where we pretend there isn't these things happening, so that we don't have to go to manifestation. And so my hope is that once we get to this point, that the team is able to find more supports that help that child, because they obviously don't have what they need when they get to that many days.
So are these EBD students mostly?
I wouldn't say so.
Not necessarily, no.
So we have students with disabilities experiencing a lot more behavior issues, however.
Not what it's saying is that students with disabilities experience out of school removals exceeding 10 days higher than the state threshold. So compared to other students with disabilities.
What about the rest of our students? It's different.
I can look into that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
That's state levels.
Yep.
That's how this report is.
State level and students with disabilities. So these next few then is just some of the work that we had, that some teams in buildings have been working on in regards to specific indicators. So the first, these first two slides are work that Beloit Memorial High School and Beloit Learning Academy have engaged in around their graduation rate improvement. And so what that is obviously working to address indicators 1 and 2, which is dropout rates and timely graduation again. And the Transition Improvement Grant, which is a discretionary grant out of the Department of Public Instruction, has worked with a team at Beloit Memorial and BLA, and that team consists of site administrators, special education teachers, program manager, and general ed teacher, as well as a counselor. Counselor and the social worker that was at BLA was part of BLA's, but they had a student services staff member also as part of their team. And what they did is they looked at all of the students in their buildings that have IEPs, and they filtered out by students that have chronic absent issues, if they had 1 or more D or F in their grades, and then overall case manager like feedback and input. And they created cohorts of students. So Beloit Memorial had 31 students. And what they did is they worked through a plan with the Transition Improvement Grant to identify some targeted interventions for those students to help them engage and connect more with school. And so the Transition Improvement Grant just put together the kind of highlights from that. And so this snapshot shows of those 31 students, 57% of them improved their attendance rates. 65% of them had a decrease in disciplinary referrals, 78% of them decreased their suspensions, and 78% earned 4 or more credits in the 25-26 school year. So Beloit Memorial is really, proud of the work that they, started to do, and they're looking forward to being able to continue this with the support of the Transition Improvement Grant next year.
Yeah. So go to the last sentence of Beloit Memorial and BLA actually. The chart below reflects percentage of the 31 students who demonstrated improvement in these areas. How many students were involved in this?
31.
That was their cohort.
The percentage of, okay.
Yep, the top line on there says in total 31 students
31,
received. Yep,
okay, and then, so that's, okay.
that's that
So
one.
this was
And
a
then-
targeted group.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then you chose these students and you said, all right, these are the kids we're gonna do this intervention with.
Yep.
And
But-
so,
Because of their chronic absenteeism,
Yeah.
because of their DRF, and because they were identified by.
I guess my question came from who demonstrated improvement. What about the ones who didn't show improvement?
It's the
So
percentage.
it's the percentage that demonstrates.
yeah.
I just,
57%
the wording threw me.
Oh.
demonstrated improvement.
Okay, thank you.
Are we expanding the cohort?
So the intent is for Beloit Memorial the intent was also for Beloit Learning Academy, but they are gonna look into, I don't know what that looks like right now with BLA being at the high school, if that'll stay separate or that'll just become one cohort. We haven't figured that part out yet.
Strategies that could be moved out to other students as well, because,
Yep.
attendance and some of those are issues.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge stuff right there.
Absolutely.
Life changing.
Yes.
And it's the staff are really proud, and they're the ones that, they're the ones that did it. They engaged in professional learning throughout the course of the year. They engaged in some coaching meetings with the staff from the Transition Improvement Grant. And they're the ones that delivered the intervention, and they tracked the data, and so.
Yeah, so it's like 20 plus students that decreased disciplinary referrals, decreased suspensions, like 16, 17 kids improved their attendance, and that's huge for those kids. That's really nice to see.
And so then this slide is BLA's. So BLA had 7 students in their cohort. And they, improved attendance, not what they were hoping for by any means. But they were, again, proud of their decrease in disciplinary referrals, decrease in their suspensions, and the 86% of those 7 students earning 4 or more credits. So.
Just curious, did they give you improved attendance by, 20% or 10% or decreased disciplinary referrals? What does that mean in terms of, was it, you had
So
decrease of
yep.
50% or?
So attendance, I will have to go back in and look at what the metric was in terms of the disciplinary referrals and suspensions. That is based off of where they were at the end of last school year. So that was their baseline, and then if they ended, were they at less than? So that could have meant just 1 fewer.
Yes,
So, yep.
Yeah. I would encourage it as they continue to kind of tighten up those metrics a little bit and identify what those are. So, we know what that means when you're decreasing attendance, that it's more than, or decreasing discipline referrals, it's like 3 or 4 or some number. Because 1 might not be enough.
Yeah, because one might have had 20, now you got 19.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, it might tighten up just identify the metrics so that, we know what we're looking at for sure.
And then these last couple here is work that our early childhood teams have done with the support of the early learning technical assistance team, which is another discretionary grant group out of the Department of Public Instruction. And so again, this was really focused on our 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds who aren't in 5-year-old kindergarten. That team has thought about some changes and tweaks they can make to the 3-year-old programs, but that was not their primary focus because there's what we have is what we have right now with those, like I mentioned before. And so their focus was really around the 4K and providing more targeted, deeper supports in 4K. And so they did some work around their child outcomes. So that's indicator 7. They're measuring essentially their readiness in terms of the outcome metrics for the students. They did work around the preschool environments. And so members of that team, if they had students that were 100% being pulled out for services, they made it a goal for themselves to try to provide at least a portion of services in so they can start to collect data around does that work for the student, does that not work for the student. It also increased the amount of time that the special ed teachers were present in 4K environments instead of just coming and picking up students and pulling them out. And our switch to our 3-year-old, instead of having multiple sites, having multiple sections at one site so that they can collaborate and they feel like they can be a part of a team, because right now they're singletons in their buildings. Mm-hmm. And so this slide then shows some of the data that the early learning technical assistance team kind of collected as they worked with the early childhood staff members. And so they did 2 different assessments. They have a benchmarks of quality assessment that's on the left-hand side. So that's talking about growth and system capacity. So when they started the work in February 2024, in those areas, you can see 0 of those components were in place. And by the time we ended this last year, the team was able to get up to 2 in place for attitudes and beliefs, administrative leadership, high quality universal practices. They were able to get 3 of them in place for service delivery, and then 1 they were able to get in place for family partnerships. And then our inclusion rate, so indicator 6A, you can see the data, 2021-22, we were at 6.7%. And we've, gone up. The 36.7% is the highest rate in the period of review that team has done. And that was reflected on the earlier slides where we looked at the IDEA data.
And that's mostly 4K?
That's 3-year-olds. And it's primarily 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. We have very few 5-year-olds that aren't in our 5K program.
Back to the, who all is on this early childhood inclusion leadership team? Is it mostly this teaching staff, or is it the community partners who have been involved in that?
Nope, it was all done with teaching staff.
Okay. A district inclusion statement and vision, where is that?
So we worked on that. That was presented to the board 2 years ago as part of the continuous improvement work. The same time that the teaching and learning team presented their math.
It used to be on the website, maybe with the transition to the new website.
Okay. And the PLC structures would be PLCs for the 4K special ed teachers, or the 4K teachers plus special ed, or?
4K teachers plus special ed.
Okay.
And related service. So we had a lot of speech and language in particular. Spent a lot of time with the 4K teachers as well.
What does attitudes and beliefs mean?
So just in terms of like supporting students with disabilities that are 3 to 5 year olds, where they should be receiving their services.
Okay, how are you measuring that?
That's through the metric tool that the ELTAI uses.
Okay.
The
Administrative
benchmarks of
leadership,
quality.
and we have, what does that mean, 2 in place? You have 2 administrators that are involved with that?
No, those are the categories that the benchmarks of quality assesses, and then there are like subcategories under each of those. So I'd have to go and pull the benchmarks of quality and send you that information.
And I'm wondering, I'm wondering about family partnerships. Was there everything else was
higher growth?
Why, is there a reason why family partner, is it just a struggle? Probably.
It is, yep. And we hear that across the board even sometimes. Like when we did our SIP retreat with our schools this year, they all talk about how like engaging families is one of the most challenging things that they experience, yeah.
Okay. Add that to it.
So like we mentioned at the beginning, then this, all of this data has led us to working towards building our district improvement plan with the support of our technical assistance team that's assigned to us from the state. And so, like I mentioned, we have those accountability partners through CISA 2 and the Department of Public Instruction. It was initiated out of the need to address those federal identifications. So when we engaged in the work early on, about 5 years ago, it was specific to special education, and it has since grown to be much more than just special education with the ESSA components as well. And so the team has worked, and when I say the team, I mean teaching and learning and pupil services with that support from CISA 2. So we've been working with our TA team. We took the board goals that you guys had set for the district this last year, because just like we were expecting buildings to align to our work so that there's a through line, we needed to make sure that what we were working on not only was working to address obviously what we're seeing in those reports, but also is aligned to the goals that you guys set. And so we had your strategic priorities, your board priorities listed in there, and we've then come up with a math, a literacy, and a school climate goal. And the next steps of that is working with the team to really tease out what that looks like. And that's going all the way down to like talking about professional learning and making sure that it's targeted and ensuring that everything is connected back to those goals.
Like the initiative inventory, looking at are the resources we're using working and do we have too many, all of that kind of stuff.
That's all of it. Any other questions or comments?
Very informative, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Megan.
Hey, yeah, no, I just really appreciate, I spent a lot of time going through this presentation. I think this is such a good comprehensive overview, and I really appreciated just a few minutes ago, I think Eric, you were talking about like the SIP retreat and things like that. I think like sharing the thinking and like the logic, just the comprehensive systems work that's going on and like bringing us into it on a high level as a board is really important, because I really think that that's the kind of just like thinking, structure, and use of data that should really inform how the board, strategically moves forward, sort of in partnership with administration. So I think this was like a really interesting, really great discussion. I just appreciate all the time that you guys put into preparing it and explaining this to us this evening.
Thank you, Eric and Missy. I appreciate all your hard work. So then that wasn't just for discussion, right? No action needed to be taken on that. So, then our next meeting is going to be
August 4th.
August 4th, 2026 at 5:30 or immediately following the business operations, finance, and HR committee, whichever is later. We have a motion for adjournment.
So before you adjourn,
Yes.
just our committee was discussing informally, we're setting that time for 5:30 just in case we got done early, and we'd like you all being here.
Yes.
We sometimes feel like that puts pressure on us to
Oh.
finish our, just so we're all, I wanted to.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
No, the only reason why we did that was because, the first
We
time
got done early.
you got done so early
We had to
and we
wait.
had to wait. And so I am fine, like, we're all planning on being part of your meeting anyway. And so there's no need for, you guys don't need to hurry at all. I'm sorry.
No, we don't, I just want to make sure we're just all on the same page, because not everyone was at our, I call it a retreat, but whatever, and not everyone was there, so
Yeah,
we're all on the
no,
same page.
no rush.
Maybe a 1 hour, an hour and a half
Yes.
more typical for a
Yes.
meeting. Okay,
Right, yeah.
thanks.
We'll be here as long as we need to be here.
All right, thank you.
We're good at that.
It's the cutoff because of the security system.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Dan. Anyone? All right. We have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
And a second. Tommy, want a second then?
They did something tonight. for TLE.
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you so much, everyone.
I was here.
Yes, you did.
Have a great night.
You ask,
Good night.
you ask
Leah.
questions. Don't be hard on yourself. You ask questions.
Your bracelet didn't go